According to my favourite AI model, a Pro suffix usually indicates an advanced version of a product with added features or higher performance, or is targeted at professional users compared to standard models. But that conventional wisdom seems to have been lost in translation for KZ with their new TWS release, the Carol Pro. Over the next few minutes, you're going to join me in a game of spot the difference between this new version and the original KZ Carol, as we listen to what both of them sound like through binaural recordings, hear how effective their ANC is in a busy coffee shop, listen to call samples, and compare their latency and battery life. But before we get into that, even on paper the differences seem quite minuscule. They're using a newer Bluetooth 5.4 chipset on the Pro, and they're giving you high-res audio through LDAC, as well as a smaller charge case but a lower overall battery life. Here you can see, signified by slightly different ear tips which I've had to use so I can actually tell the difference between them, that the shell is cosmetically identical. They look slightly bulky and unorthodox in the ear, but they are pretty comfortable, and you're given 3 different sizes of ear tips to try and get them to fit. The nozzles on these and the original Carol are quite large and oval, so getting third-party tips to fit them might be a challenge. Despite their large footprint, they did stay in my ears pretty well, passing the 100 jumping jacks test without too many problems. And whilst I don't have an official IPX rating, I've been using them in the gym and exposing them to the elements, and I haven't noticed any problems yet. The touch controls can be a source of frustration, often failing to register and usually putting them into gaming mode when that wasn't what I meant them to do at all. There's no volume control and there's no ability to customize the controls through the app because there's no app support, something you would have expected to see in a Pro version. As we said in the intro, the case is probably the biggest change from the original Carol, but it isn't what I would call an upgrade necessarily, because whilst it is admittedly more portable, the new case is more roomy at the front, and I found that the buds would shake free sometimes if you're moving around quite a bit with them in your pocket, interrupting them from charging. Looking at the sound now, and as we established in the intro, the Carol Pro features LDAC, whereas the original Carol has only got those standard resolution codecs. But as you've heard me say many times in these reviews, its importance is massively overstated, particularly in these budget single driver arrangements. A far bigger determinant of whether you're going to enjoy the sound is the tuning. And coming up now, you're going to hear a binaural sound sample so you can see those very minor differences that KZ have made between the Carol and the Carol Pro. As always, it's better to listen to these samples with your headphones on. As I said, only a very minor tweak to the tuning, but in lifting that bass a little bit on the Carol Pro, it has adjusted the tonal balance slightly, giving it a slightly less energetic feel than the original Carol. Interestingly, with ANC off, these two sets sound practically identical. But with ANC switched on, as you can see, the bass shelf rises slightly on the Carol Pro, and whilst the trebles tuning doesn't seem to have changed that much on the graph, in reality your percussive elements, your synths and strings lack the bite that they had on the original Carol, with the Pro sounding warmer and smoother overall. Often I get asked in the comment section of my reviews which sounds better, this earbud or this earbud, when the differences in technical performance of the drivers tend to be very little, especially with budget buds. Like always, which one you prefer between the Carol and the Carol Pro is going to come down to your own personal preference. That's precisely why I include these binaural samples, so you can check the sound for yourself. But for me, I slightly prefer the sound of the Carol Pro, especially for longer listening sessions where that treble isn't quite as pervasive. This refinement sees the Carol Pro jump to the top of KZ's TWS releases in the Audio League table, and they are amongst some of the better performing £0 to £30 options on the market. The differences in active noise cancellation performance are even smaller, with neither set really able to filter out voices or mid-frequency sounds particularly well, although they do a decent job with those lower frequency sounds and rumbles, as you'll hear in the following samples recorded in a busy coffee shop.
ANC on. ANC on.
Overall, the ANC strength is just okay. It's commensurate with its low price tag. And it's a similar thing with the transparency mode, which isn't the most natural. You can hear your surroundings, but at the expense of a little bit of white noise.
Performance on calls doesn't seem to have changed either. This is how the mics perform when you're in a very quiet room and have no environmental sounds going on around you at all. However, you're going to hear how they perform in noisy, busy scenarios in a moment, with real-life clips both indoors and outdoors. So the first call quality test for the KZ Carol Pro is in London's Borough Market, a very busy scene here on the weekend, where you've got hundreds of tourists just walking around, buying stuff. So you're fighting, if you're on a call, you're fighting to make your voice heard over those other voices around you. It's a stern test for the KZ Carol. And just a quick comparison, this is the original KZ Carol in exactly the same scene. We've got exactly the same mixture of environmental noises going on around us. And this time we're testing the KZ Carol Pro and how they're going to perform on your calls in a busy indoor scene. And in the usual coffee shop here in the UK, you've got that usual mixture of chatter, sounds of the baristas making coffee, you've got music coming from the stereo speakers. So if you're making a call in a busy indoor environment, this is how you can expect it to sound. And just as a very quick comparison, this is how the original Carol sounds in that same busy coffee shop scene. If you want to hear the full call sample in this scene, do check out the original Carol review. Is in the top right. Next up, we're testing how the Carol Pro sound on your calls. First, when you're using them on the daily commute and you're having to battle with quite a bit of wind, as you can see today. You've also got traffic noises, all those sorts of things going on in the background. Maybe if you're on the way to work, school, college, and you're making or taking a call.
So no differences really as far as calls are concerned. And with latency, it's a very similar story. Both of these models have a high performance or low latency mode, and whilst they're okay for watching videos, for first person shooters it's something that you're really going to notice. And surprise surprise, battery life hasn't changed either. I got around 6 hours with ANC off and just over 4 with ANC on. As we mentioned earlier, the overall battery life has reduced because of the charge case capacity, so you actually have to count that as a backward step. Now, it isn't that I don't like or rate the Carol Pro. In their price category, that under $30 mark, they're still one of the most competitive pickups that you can get, doing all the basics pretty well. I just don't understand the point of this release really, when it isn't doing anything really over and above what the original Carol could do, other than giving you a higher transmission rate with LDAC that isn't really beneficial in these lower cost buds. I do prefer the sound slightly, but that does come down to personal preference. And whilst they do sound good, certainly for the price, it's not enough to justify that Pro moniker. If you're watching this KZ, next time give us stronger active noise cancellation or better call performance. Don't just replace the case, because that definitely doesn't warrant the Pro tag. If you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Give the video a like if you found it useful and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. For now, it's ReganCipher signing off.